Steve, what's your initial reaction to this news that broke about a half an hour ago?
You know, Gary, I did not have a soul alive over the last year that expected Jacob deGrom to come back after this season. The expectation was from all parts of the industry that he was going to move on and he was going to go elsewhere. Still, when you see the news break, when you see the Texas Rangers tweeting it out in a picture with Jacob deGrom in a Rangers uniform, it's stunning. So full expectation that this was going to happen, but still surprising when it actually does.
Did you think this was going to happen deep in your heart, Steve?
Yeah, I did. I mean, you know, let me backtrack a little bit. You say deep in your heart. In my heart, I still thought maybe not, because quite frankly, you know, since I've been around this team, and that's starting in 2014, there's been nothing quite like Jacob deGrom. And witnessing him over these years, I think you start to think about the great all-time Mets, the Seavers, the David Wrights, guys that would be synonymous with this franchise. And I thought Jacob deGrom, you know, for all of these years, I thought he would be one of those guys that had that number retired and was an all-time great Met for the majority of his career. Again, though, as the last year has unfolded, really whoever you spoke to in the industry, whether it was on the agent side, on the player side, on management side, there just seemed to be this overwhelming belief that he was going to go elsewhere. And so, you know, I guess in my heart of hearts, and that's why I say it's still shocking to see it out in front of you. In my heart of hearts, I thought, well, really is he going to go? But there had been enough smoke for a long time that you can't be totally thrown off when it actually happens.
Yeah, I said to Andy Martino a few minutes ago that I was convinced he was going to take the most money, which is what he has done here. And, Steve, I think we were in the clubhouse at the beginning of spring training together when we had a chance to visit with Jacob deGrom at the start of last season after the lockout came to an end. And one of the things, we had a very pleasant conversation, but one of the things he did reiterate at that moment was, hey, I am opting out at the end of my contract, at the end of the season when he was available to do so. I mean, he was pretty adamant about that all season long. And that right there was, in many ways, I think, a telltale sign that he was really serious about this, that he was going to take as much money as he could possibly get. If it came from the Mets, great. If it came from somebody else, so be it. And, Steve, it was the Texas Rangers.
Yeah, you know, Gary, I agree with all of that. When you talk about our initial conversation with him in spring training, and certainly he had been steadfast all season long and never wavered from his position that he was opting out of this deal. So I don't think anybody can be, again, totally shocked that this is how it all played out. But I don't necessarily think it was only about the money. And I mean, you heard, you know, Andy's reporting that the Mets didn't even really have a chance to make him another offer. I don't think that he necessarily felt like he, you know, I don't think he necessarily wanted to come back. And, you know, for what reason that is, I think there's so many. And Jake is a guy that, you know, isn't really very open about that with people. And he plays it pretty close to the vest. It's certainly his prerogative. He's earned this right to be a free agent. He that opt-out clause in. But, you know, I think there were a lot of people that thought he might want to be closer to home in Florida. I also think that he's a guy that, you know, is very, I mean, we talk about that entrance music all the time, right? He's a simple man. And he's a simple man in not just the way that he comes onto the mound, but also in his life. New York City doesn't necessarily fit with Jacob deGrom's personality. And so going to a place like Texas, you know, maybe that's a little closer to what deGrom wants to have in terms of a lifestyle as well.